had any hot dates lately? The struggle or the excitement of dating when you never thought you would again. Let's get into it. Welcome to Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. I am so happy you're here. All right, y'all. I did not really know if I wanted to talk about this topic, but weirdly, I honestly get asked a lot from people to talk more about dating. And I have some thoughts and opinions. So I thought, okay, fine, let's talk about it because I had a buddy of mine be like, any hot dates lately? And I literally was having to think about the last date I was on. And I was like, wow. And I don't really want to like air my personal life, even though clearly I do because I have this podcast. But not in all of the, really details of every little thing. But it came to my attention because that is like a question that I was like even taken back by, that I realized is a part of my reality that wasn't for so very long. So I feel like anyone that is, if you've gotten out of a relationship, any kind of relationship long-term, or you're starting over after divorce and you're like, that is just kind of like, it's kind of like a weird question, any hot dates lately, because I literally wasn't dating for so long. And really since my divorce, and I've talked about this, like I haven't really done a lot of that. It doesn't really, I don't know. It just hasn't felt like something normal to me. So I haven't prioritized it, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit because people are asking like, how do you kind of navigate it? And one thing that I realized, I went to my first wedding since the messy one I talked about in an earlier episode. I think it was season 1 where I talked about the first wedding I went to during my separation and what a mess that was. And if you haven't heard it, you should go back and listen because it was wild. But I went to one more back in Utah, not that, probably a couple weeks ago or a month or so ago. And it was actually so beautiful. And I absolutely loved it. And it was such a different vibe from my separation. Oh, this will be fine to like this. I realized how much I had healed, how it felt so different. But the other thing that I noticed, which was a whole bunch of other married couples. And the irony too is that the girl's wedding that it was, shout out to my friend Brenda, because she came to Nashville for a bachelorette party too. So that was a joy. But was that she had gotten divorced just probably like, I think she was going through it like a year before me, give or take, like around that time. And so I realized now I have had a few people I've talked about that have gotten divorced or around or a little before me back home and are already in serious relationships. I have multiple. The 3 girls I knew, 2 of the 3 are already remarried. So I don't think about that often, but when I do, I'm like, gosh, Heather, you don't even really want to date. And then these other people are already now on their second marriages. And you're like, yeah. So I wanted to kind of talk about that because I feel like now, and I've said before, like having single friends out here, all my friends are single. I just got back from, my Nashville friends are all single. I have a few, one married friend, one in a committed relationship, but for the majority, they're all single. And then my friends back home are all married. So I just got back from, this is timely, and this is a little bit, but I just got back from California where I went on a trip with 5 married couples and I 11th wheeled it. And I thought, like, I was like, this will be interesting. We'll see, like, how is this with me? Like, how will I feel? What will it be like? Because I don't even really hang out with married couples that much now, And so it was actually like the best time ever. And being by myself, like I didn't really feel like left out per se. I mean, obviously I knew the people and I'm like outgoing and it was fine. But there were moments where it was like, I went back and forth in my head. So if you're married, you probably can feel this because I obviously, when you're married, you're like, your partner's there and then there's just, it's 2 people. So there's like, it's not always just like a vibe. Sometimes you're like, I want to do this and they want to do that. And it just, sometimes. And so being single in that and watching, and no one was like not having a good time. The couples were all great, but you can just tell, especially if you've been married, where you're like, oh yeah, I'm glad I'm not worrying about my partner. I just get to do me. So there's like these pros and cons to it where I'm just like in my own little land, like whatever I want to do, I'm just going with the flow. But then when you're with someone, it's like, well, where do you want to eat? What do you want? There's just differences. And when I think about dating and being back in that, there's like also pros and cons. And I'll say one thing. I think a lot of people that I've met since this whole like being divorced and being in Nashville with a whole bunch of single people, it almost feels like this, we got to like date as many people as we possibly can so we can find the right one. And it almost feels like spending like all this time in the lake, like looking for the right fish, and you're just out there fishing and you stop like enjoying just the leisurely fishing of life. And you're just like, we got to reel them in. We get next one. Like, that's kind of what it gives me the vibe. Like, I don't know. And I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to fish for sport. I want to just have a good time. And a lot of, like, I thought of this analogy, and I'm not judging. Like, everyone will meet who's meant for them in whatever way in which it's supposed to. And if that's, being on the dating apps for years and then finally meeting the person for you, like that could be definitely someone's path, and I'm not judging that. But I know that's not my path, and I don't think there's anything wrong with me saying that, because it's not me saying, oh, I'm better because I'm not going to do the apps. It's just like I'm not. And I don't want to, because it doesn't feel right to me, because it doesn't feel like something I want to do, because it doesn't, like, I don't think that it's supposed to be that way for me personally. And I'm not saying that people that use it are like, well, I love it and that's why I'm doing it. But if they feel a pull to do it that way, then maybe they should. So I never judge it. But the thought that I had about it when people are asking me like, when are you going to talk about dating? For me, it's like when I did, and I've talked about it a few times, and went on a date with this guy like 3 times. I remember my friends like, you need to, like, after the first date, I was like, yeah, he's pretty cool. Like, maybe, whatever. So I go on the second one and I was like, nah. And she was like, and nothing against him. Like, he's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. But I just knew it wasn't for me. And she was like, no, you got, like, all these experts say you got to go on a 3rd date and see and blah, blah. And I'm like, so I go, cave, which you should always go with. To me personally, I feel like you don't need to listen to me. Go with what you feel. Like, you will know what's right for you. I'm a firm believer in that. So if you listen to anything on this episode about dating, it's trust your own gut and instinct and feelings. And that will lead me to another thought. But so back to this. So she tells me, okay, you have to go. It's 3rd date. So I go and I'm like, I already knew, like, absolutely no. Like, it wasn't the vibe. Nothing wrong with him. Nothing even, I can't even give you like a bad thing. It was just like, I just felt like, like he just liked the idea of me and didn't really like, I don't know. It wasn't for me. And after that, I told him, and he was super nice about it. And I did that whole thing, but I was like, I feel like I already would just know right away. And I'm not saying like love it, like I'm not saying I will like be in love at first sight, but I feel like I will just know, like, this is my vibe or not. Like that, because I'm that way even with friendships. Like when I meet someone, I can be like, oh yeah, like this person will probably be one of my close friends, or like, no. And I know you can probably do that too. So if you think about that with people that you meet, right? Like even a job, you're like, oh, I could definitely see myself working here. Like if you don't get that feeling about a job, like I could see myself working here, but then you just keep going. You're like, well, they pay well, like it's probably not for you. But that's what I feel like a lot of people do with dating. It's like they're kind of like waiting for it to get better, when like literally that first vibe and energy is probably the initiator if it's going to get better. And I'm not saying people don't have stories to say the latter, right? I'm sure they do. Oh, I didn't really like it, but then look at how great it became. I'm sure that could be someone's story and truth. But for me, every time in my life that I have been like, oh, even and jobs is a great one where I was like, oh, I don't really want this. It's not really for me. And I remember there was this one job I had, and this is perfect. This is how I feel like dating works too. It was this one job. I was like, I went into the office and I was like, no, it's not the vibe. Like something about the manager, something about the office. I was like, no. And I said no, and I listened to myself and said no. But then like I was at my other job and they literally called me and was like, look, we'll offer you more money. We've been interviewing. You're the best candidate. And I thought, oh, maybe this is meant for me because they wanted me, so much and they're going to pay me more. And so I didn't listen to that. And I took the job, and it was literally ended up being one of the most stressful, like I was miserable just thinking about going to that job before I ended up leaving. And so if I would have just listened from and it's fine, it was a lesson but it was like, for me, that's how it feels with like a person in my life. Like I know if it's not a yes, it's a no. And that doesn't mean about them personally, but it's like, so that's what's kind of hard about dating for me, I guess. And I wonder if anyone else kind of like can feel this and I have talked to other women that feel like, and I don't really know a lot personally, but some that I've talked to online that feel this, where you're kind of just isolated because you're like, if it's not a yes, I just don't really want to. It's not that you're like better or like, look at me, I'm just waiting for the perfect person. It's kind of like, no, not the perfect person. No one's perfect, but like the right vibe for me. And I realize when we're dating sometimes when we're dating or we're bringing people into our life, if we really am true and honest with ourselves, we realize that there's some ties to things that we haven't worked through that are not about, I'm ready for a partner. They're about, I'm not ready to sit in myself. I'm not ready to self-reflect with things I need to work through. I'm not ready to be confident enough to be alone. I'm not comfortable enough alone. And I know that there's some people that loneliness can be harder for them. And I understand that. And I know that I'm someone that like deals with being alone probably better than a lot of the other women that I've spoken to. Like they like to have someone there. And don't get me wrong, there are so many times where I'm like, okay, and this is only recently. This wasn't the whole time. Most of the time I was like, I'm good. But now it's coming up. So I guess that's why people are asking me, where there are moments where I'm like, yeah, a partner would be really amazing right now with some of the things that I'm feeling and going through and navigating. And honestly, like, even though I had a great time at the concert with, 5 married couples, like me being able to bring like someone I love to vibe with, like, I ended up, that will be for another time, but we went to Morgan Wallen and we had seats. I manifested pit tickets. That will be another story, but literally got them before Morgan Wallen went on. So I just want to remind myself of that joyful moment. And that would have been so cool. Like my person looking at me like, of course you would do that. It was really cool, actually. So I needed that little spark of happiness. But anyways, so it was so fun. And sometimes I was looking over and like seeing the couples, doing their little, and I was like, but it's fine. I was just like, I guess I'm the problem, so it was fine. But like there were moments, but I never want to like just get rid of those moments of loneliness with someone that's like not the right fit for me, because I feel like I have already done that. And maybe that's why it's easier for me to see that. Like I've already sat and stayed with what wasn't meant for me just because I didn't know what it would feel like to not be a wife. I didn't want to go through the pains of, exiting a relationship. I didn't want to date. I didn't want to face maybe some things that I needed to work through to be a better partner, because that's been a big one for me, is that you have to kind of, if you want to attract the right person, you have to be the right person, I think. And until I get to that space where you don't have to be perfect, don't get me wrong, but until I get to that space where I'm just like, okay, I feel good. And one thing I'll tell you about why I feel this way about like being in the right space and not just dating, I think I need to go back to, I'm kind of jumping around, but I feel like it's like when you're just dating and dating and dating and you don't know, you're just trying to date everyone. You're going like I said, I've talked about a little bit before how I had friends that were going on like 5 dates a week or like 2 dates in one night. It's like, okay, like I guess there's some mathematic strategy in their minds around that. To me, it's like a draining of energy. So not for me, but also like, it's almost like interviewing for a whole bunch of jobs you don't even want. Like, would you really, like for me, I feel like there's a level. So think about this, you lose your job. And then at the beginning, you're like, okay, I'm just going to try to find a job. So then you're only going for the jobs you really, really want. Because you're like, I have a little bit of time, so I'm going to find this job that I really want to do. But then the longer it goes that you didn't land that job, you just start applying for everything. You're like, no, I don't really want to work at the circus, but sounds like a good plan. And then you're like, but I need a job. And and that necessity, that like desperation puts you in rooms you don't even want to be in. Because you're just like, well, this is a job. And I'm not judging, like that, again, can be someone's journey, but it's not mine. And if you think about that in that analogy, is that yours? Because I feel like applying for a job, interviewing, doing all those things, like I don't know why I would do it if I don't see it being the job for me. And I get it. Sometimes it could sound like it is. And then you get in there and you're like, oh, never mind. Okay, that's probably worth your energy because you were like, this might be a good fit for me. But just every single job posting that's decent and being like, this could be the one, that's not my dating strategy. And I don't even have a dating strategy, but that doesn't work for me. So I think like whatever happens, I don't even like, I'm honestly probably the delusional girl that's like, I don't know if he'll be at the grocery store or like boarding a flight at the same time as me, or I have no idea. I know my back home friends when I was going to the concert, like maybe I'll meet at the concert. And I'm like, honestly, like, I don't even remember looking at a single man the whole concert. So like, if you saw me, I didn't see you. Because I'm kind of just like doing my own life. And I said this the other day to my friend. I feel like I took myself on a date and I was like, I think that I just need to keep like doing that. Just keep dating myself and enjoying my own company, because it's almost like the analogy that I thought of with that is that if you aren't even in a place where you're so happy and comfortable with doing you and dating yourself and enjoying the things that you're doing, like how are you really giving that energy or selling that to someone else? Like if you don't even want to sit alone with yourself, if you're not even happy with where you're going or what you're doing, like how is someone else expected to? And I feel like just like the job analogy, when you're like just throwing out your resume at every single job, it's almost like creating this mindset of a lack mindset. Like, I need it. Like, I don't have it. And lack doesn't attract, is how I feel. And if it does, it's going to be probably someone else that's lacking. And that's just like not what I have already attracted that when I wasn't in a good place. I attracted something that was just like, both probably in this lack, like needing like some kind of comfort in the space we were in. And it didn't really feel good because it wasn't really for the purpose of a genuine connection of like building a life. It was more like to numb and mask a feeling and avoid a loneliness and give yourself false hope of being wanted. And yeah, I'm just not available for that anymore. I think I'm like only available for the right fit. And I think you can find that, you know, if you're in a place, you could find that dating on the dating apps. But for me, it's like, I'll wrap this up, but I was asked on a date recently when I was buying Tecovas. So see, I mean, you know, guy got my number, text me right after, asked to take me out. And I know this sounds silly, but like when he texted me again, he didn't like remember. He said, "Oh, hope you had fun at the concert." And I wasn't going to a concert. And I was like, okay, so I kind of let that slide. And but I was like, meh, I'm busy. Like I'm going to be traveling. So I never wrote back. And then he wrote me again with the persistence. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of down for persistence and like, you know, a man that's like, you know, hey, give me a chance. So I was like, so I finally wrote back. And then he like forgot where I lived. Like, I feel like Nashville's not that big. Like I remembered where he lived. And I know that's like a small thing, but I'm like, this is, if you want the truth of how I feel, and this isn't like, oh, I'm like like a high maintenance thing. It's just like, I feel like the person that I'm supposed to be with will like absolutely remember something like that. And so I'm not saying that I can only give time to the person I'm supposed to be with, but like, why am I going out of my way to like meet this dude that doesn't even remember like where I live when it was like 2 days ago and the cities in Nashville are not that, like, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh, and so I ended up, which I'm usually, my buddy gives me crap because I'm a ghoster, and I don't mean it in a rude way. I'm just like, well, I think that's, I mean, if someone ghosts me, I'm like, I get it. Then it's just, I mean, it's one thing ghost when you're meeting, but like if you're just texting, like if I don't write you back, there's our answer. If you didn't write me back, I'd just feel the same. But I know everyone's different and whatever. But I was like trying to think of him. So I was like, all right, I'll write back. And I just said, hey, you know, like you're totally like a super cute guy, blah, blah, blah. I feel like, you know, like literally kind of cheesy, but like my person would like know, like you didn't remember that I wasn't going to a concert and then you didn't remember where I lived. Like obviously I clearly wasn't that memorable in this man's mind. So like, I just don't feel like that's for me, but you're totally going to find another girl, hopefully at Tecovas, like, you know, cheers to that. And I was like, no hard feelings. And then he wrote back and he was just like, okay, but it's not like that. But if you change your mind. And so just left it at that. But like, I'm not even going to even go on a date with someone like that. So it's like, and I don't mean it in a rude way. It's just like, I'm just not going to like, I feel like my time, just like his, is valuable. Maybe he wants to spend it going to have drinks with someone that he can't remember where she lives. But like, I don't. And so unless it felt that way, I'm just kind of like, I'm open to it finding me, but it's not going to be like, I'm not going to me, that's like a job, you know, that at first I was like, oh, he's cute. Well, we'll see. You never know. Whatever. I'm open. And then you hear more about the job description and you're like, yeah, that's probably not a fit. And it's not like it's a bad job. It's probably a great fit for someone else. Not a fit for me. So I don't even want to go to the interview because I just don't see why. I mean, maybe if, you know, and there was a phase in my life where it felt okay to just like invest energy and time into something that wasn't, you know, forever. I mean, a lot of what I was doing, and I've talked about in previous episodes, was kind of just like, oh, let me just be vibing with this person because I know it doesn't go anywhere, and then I don't have to worry about it being a thing, and then I don't have to put my emotions and feelings and invest in them. And that, you know, that was how I was coping for a little while. But now that I've like opened my heart more to the idea of actually like building a life with someone, which sounds so crazy for me to say, I just know if like, you're not gonna be able to build a house with me. You don't even remember where I live. You don't even remember like what I was doing. Like, it's okay. I'm not blaming him. Like maybe, you know, this, like, again, I'm just like, I just don't feel like that's the builder of the lifer person with me. You know, I feel like maybe that's someone that, you know, needs to meet the girl that he remembers everything about her. And it's like not a shaming thing, but I just feel like you would. So maybe that's like a hopeless romantic part of me or whatever. And again, it's not to shame anything. Super cute guy. I probably just wasn't for him, you know? He's probably in that phase where he wants to do those things, just someone that's not long-term. And so we just didn't mesh. We weren't at that same spot. You know what I mean? And so when I do, I feel like date again, which is going to be crazy to say, but I'm putting it on the record. It'll be so intentional that it will just be the end all. I think that's the only way I see myself moving through the world. It will just be the end all. And not that I'm like putting so much pressure on it. Like I'm not gonna, you know, I things have to flow. But it would definitely be with the end game in sight. Not like, you know, which is crazy again to say, because even at the wedding, like I said, like even the groom was like, why, like, and which is, whatever. I know a lot of my single friends get this question and I don't take it offensively, but I'm coming up like in February will be 3 years since my divorce. And like I said, I have a lot of friends that are already remarried. So it's starting to feel like it's been a bit of time. It's been such a journey. But when he was like, why are you still single? You know? And it's like, I don't really take it as like a bad thing. I just take it as like where I am in my life. Like any other piece, you know, like I'm just navigating it as I would anything else and just figuring it out along the way, and all the right things happen and all the right people come, and my Delulu hat is heavy on my head and it's like not coming off. Like that's it for me. So the next time you're thinking about dating, like do you? I don't know. My only words for advice when people ask me to talk more about it is just do what feels right for you. Don't feel like you being single is like something's wrong with you, or like there is nothing worse than being in the wrong. It is much worse, I guess, to be in the wrong relationship just because you're in one and you're unhappy than it is to just be enjoying your life and loving yourself. And this doesn't mean stay single forever, because that's definitely not what I want for myself. But this just means like being okay in any situation you're in and not tying your worth, your happiness, all of those things to a partnership. Because like I learned with my mom and dad, like my dad passed away. My mom thought that was going to be her forever person. And so even if it's not just a breakup, it's the life happens and you have to learn to be whole within yourself. Not that I'm saying that grief can't hurt and that you won't feel it and all of those things, but just learning to really, truly love yourself is just the first step in the right people presenting themselves into your life. Whether that's your forever person or even the right friends that kind of take you to that next level. So date yourself is definitely the theme of this. But it's not to be like, I don't need no man, because I could laundry list stories where I was like, a man would be real nice right now. But until then, I am just good doing it on my own. And I hope you will be too, even without a woman, whatever that looks like for you. Thank you for listening to Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. You matter.